I'm going to try to keep this video as concise as I possibly can. Granted, I do have quite a bit to unpack, and I would much rather give you too much information than not enough information. That being said, where is JT? That's why you clicked on this video. You want to know where JT is, and you believe that I have some information that you don't. Truthfully, I don't know where JT's at. If I'm being completely honest with you, that's the short answer. I don't know where he's at. However, I do know more about JT than you probably do. Now, first of all, I feel like there's this misconception that because me and JT are in somewhat of the same space and we're the same age, that we're just like this, we're tapped in, talking every day. It's not like that. Okay, the last time that I talked to JT was, as a matter of fact, let me look at our last text conversation. I think it was in April or May, if I'm not mistaken. April or May of this year. So it's been quite a few months. Let me see if I can find the conversation. And I will be sharing not what we said in the conversation, but just some of my takeaways from that conversation. Because that conversation will probably prove to be insightful for quite a few of you. Okay, actually, it was July. It was in July of this year. So yeah, a few months ago, basically. Now, in that conversation that me and JT had, like I said, this is the last time we talked. We haven't had any communication since then. We're cool, but we're not tapped in like this talking every day. All right. We had about a 4-hour conversation about YouTube. We had a 4-hour FaceTime call talking about YouTube, talking about what direction we wanted to take our brands in. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said, but I'm going to tell you this. Okay, this one word that he used in that conversation in the context of his YouTube channel. And that word was empire. Okay, now you can use your deductive reasoning to conclude what he meant by that. But he used that word in the context of his YouTube channel. Make of that what you will. Just off of that alone, I don't believe he's quitting YouTube anytime soon. First of all, why am I even making this video? The reason why I'm making this video is because I actually took the liberty of going to JT's most recent video and reading some of the comments from that video. And I was kind of astonished to see some of the comments there kind of insinuating that he just quit on them. Well, I guess you, because if you're watching this video, you clearly watched JT. People were insinuating that JT quit on them, that he abandoned them, so on and so forth. And I guess I can understand why people might have thought that, because he didn't really give any sort of explanation or any sort of warning that he was just going to disappear from YouTube. But like I said, just based on him using that word empire in the context of his YouTube channel, that let me know everything I needed to know about what his plans were, because his plans are very, very grand. That being said, there are a few things that you should probably understand about JT to better contextualize some of the things that he's currently doing, or some of the things that he's been doing, the moves he's been making for the past year or so with his channel. The reason why I know this stuff is because me, ICEcold JT, and Bryce Wilson, we stayed in an Airbnb together in LA last year for, I want to say, 4 days when we did the meet and greet. And during that time, we had these long conversations about life, about YouTube, business, and everything else in between, relationships. We had these long conversations, and I really learned a lot about JT during that time as well. One of the main things that I noticed about JT straight away was that he is pretty much the dictionary definition of a perfectionist. And what do I mean by that? You see, me and JT might be in the same space and have somewhat of a similar audience, but we approach our YouTube channels in completely different ways. Me personally, I focus on making the most authentic videos possible. Okay, my goal is to make the realest video which most accurately reflects who I am and how I'm feeling at a certain moment in time. Plain and simple, all of my ups and downs, twists and turns, whatever. Anytime I doubt myself, anytime I change my mind, all of that. Okay, I make it my place to simply document my life and be as real, authentic, and vulnerable as possible. JT, I'm not saying that he doesn't do those things, but his main priority is to make the best video possible. Plain and simple. He wants to make the best video possible. Now, when I say he's a perfectionist, okay, JT is the type of person who, I don't really have anything in the background here, but let's say, for example, let's pan the camera over. This right here, this little battery charger for my camera batteries. JT's the type of person who would move that out of the way before filming a video. I'm the type of person who will leave everything exactly as it is, because to me, I just want to show you the realist, most accurate representation of my life at that particular time. JT, again, wants to make the best video possible, and he is very, 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 very detail oriented, extremely detail oriented, to the extent that I noticed that, and by the way, Bryce can attest to this as well, because Bryce was there, and he's just as observant, if not more observant than I am when it comes to people. So JT, he really, really focuses more on the details when it comes to his channel and his content in particular. And JT's the type of person who, even if everybody who watches the video enjoys the video, if he doesn't like it, it's not a good video to him. Again, he wants to make the best videos. And to him, I don't think it's necessarily about the audience response. I think it's more about the video itself, if he thinks it's good or not. I think that's the main thing that matters to him. Me, I don't really care about that. Okay, I do not care. I try to give you high quality with the camera, 4K videos, good audio quality, all of that. And I try to speak on things that I believe can provide value to you. And JT clearly does as well. But I also feel like JT definitely has more of an eye for detail. And because of that, he definitely makes objectively better content than I do, by far. And he also manages to emanate that authenticity that people crave through this platform. And by the way, JT is actually very similar off camera as he is on camera. Just an FYI. Okay, JT's not playing a character, playing a role or anything. He's really like that off camera. So, yeah, that's kind of some information, some intel about JT. And with that information, okay, do you really think, now that you know that, do you really truly believe in your heart that JT quit YouTube? Do you really believe that? No. Okay, JT didn't quit YouTube. Now, look, I don't know what's going on in his personal life. Actually, the only reason why we talked back then in July was because I basically was conducting a wellness check on him, because I was concerned. I think even at that point, it had been some months since he had uploaded, and I was genuinely concerned. I didn't know what was going on, so I reached out, and he got back to me, and we had that conversation. So, again, I personally don't believe that JT is quitting YouTube, but I do acknowledge that when you take a certain amount of time away from YouTube, away from creating content in general, that is, it can be very difficult to get back in the flow. Now, this could be me projecting, but I would imagine that after taking 9 months off of making videos, especially for somebody like JT, who's very detail oriented and wants to make the best video, it can be very difficult to get back into that creative flow. Right? It can be very difficult. And anybody who's ever created content knows this. When you make daily content, it becomes easier to you. When you make weekly content, it becomes a little more difficult because the ideas don't necessarily flow quite as much. Not saying JT doesn't have video ideas, because I know from firsthand experience, based on our conversation, that he does have video ideas, and he has somewhat of an idea for where he wants to take his channel and what his focus will be. Again, this all could have changed since then. But based on that conversation, given that that's all I have to go on and what I know about JT the person, it's fair to assume that he will be back, and he will be back with a bang. Okay, JT is coming back from the store. He's coming back from the store with the milk. Pause. Now, earlier I alluded to our conversation and just how we talked about YouTube, and the conversation wasn't one-sided. Okay, while I was giving him advice for his YouTube channel, Actually, me and Bryce both gave him advice when we were in the Airbnb. At the time, this is what we told him personally. We told him that he should focus on live streaming because there was a gap in the market there that we believed only he could fill. Okay, JT, still to this day, if you're watching this, this is something that you really need to explore. Just doing daily streams, even just for an hour. You love streaming. I know the people love watching you stream. Yeah, you get the idea. But aside from that, okay, that's his end. But what about my end? What do we talk about on my end of the spectrum? JT gave me some really, really, really good advice. This is also another thing about JT. JT is the type of person who will actually watch people's channels and literally take notes on their channels to see what they're doing wrong, what they could improve on, the things that they're doing right, why those things work, etc. Again, JT, he's a very detail-oriented person, and he wants to make the best videos possible. So he was giving me quite a bit of advice with my channel, but he told me something that really, really, really stuck out to me at the time. You see, that Jordan Green poetry channel that I've been promoting in some of these vlogs, JT is actually the one who told me to start that channel. Believe it or not, JT is the one who told me to start that channel. And on top of that, he actually told me not to shout it out. He told me to just start from scratch with that channel, build up an entirely new audience who could actually appreciate that content. And that's exactly what I did. I started that channel and I started focusing on making the poetry content. That's pretty much what I did this entire summer 2023. I think probably about a week after me and JT had that conversation, I started that brand up. And man, that was honestly, from a creative standpoint, one of the happiest times of my life. I think the last time I felt that creatively fulfilled was when I wrote Soul Shock. Okay, it was just pure bliss and joy and satisfaction constantly. And I'm saying this to say, JT, if you're watching this, thank you. Okay, thank you for encouraging me, for giving me that extra push to start that channel. Because had you not said that, I probably still wouldn't have tapped into that creative flow that I was able to tap into earlier this year and that I plan to tap back into in the very near future. I'll get to that in a second. JT is actually not the first person who told me to do that. The first person who told me to start making spoken word or poetry videos on a completely separate channel was actually Bryce Wilson. I think a conversation that we had back in 2020, maybe 2021, late 2020 or early 2021, or maybe late 2021. It doesn't matter. Over a year ago, he told me to do that. And JT is the one who kind of just pushed me over the edge and gave me that extra encouragement, because when those two guys tell you to do something, when both Bryce and JT tell you to do something, you should probably do it, because those are two of the most adept business minds as far as YouTube goes that I personally know. That being said, I'm done with the vlogs. I know I said that I was going to do the daily vlogs and I wanted to be a man of my word, but if I'm being a man of my word, I should be focusing on writing, because that's what I said I was going to do, not just once or twice, but many times throughout the past few years. I've said this when I was at the very height of my channel growth momentum. And me being at maybe more of a lower end of channel growth momentum just gives me all the more reason and all the more encouragement to focus on doing that. Because for me, and I'll explain more about why I did that in a second, or why I'm making that decision now, here in a second. But for me, well, as a matter of fact, no. Let me just tell you what happened right now, okay? So basically, you know that I respect what Bryce says and I respect what JT says. When they tell me to do something, I will, at the very least, take it into heavy consideration. Or if nothing else, if they maybe question something that I'm doing, I'll take it into consideration. So if you watched the vlog with me and Bryce a few days ago, after we turned the camera off, he asked me a question that kind of pulled the rug from under everything I was doing. Now, before you go and say anything, all right, don't go to Bryce's channel and be like, oh, you made Jordan quit. Bryce actually told me, I think 2 days ago, to keep vlogging. because he saw the video that I made where I was talking about the struggles that I've been having with my channel and all of that. And he already knew, or Bryce knows me as a person, so he knew what type of time I was on when I made that video. I made it seem like everything was cool and like I was just gonna brush it off. He already knew when he saw that video. But when me and Bryce hung out that day, oh, and by the way, this was before I realized the things that I realized in that video. So it's not like my channel not doing well was or is the reason why I'm making this decision. It's more that that's just kind of the tipping point for me. But the decision was already in the making from the moment that Bryce asked me this question after that vlog. So Bryce has been watching my vlogs, and much like you've probably noticed, Bryce noticed that pretty much every vlog, every activity, I'm saying to the audience, I don't want to do this. I would much rather be doing something else. Okay, I don't really feel like doing this right now. I'd rather watch Netflix, or I'd rather do whatever else. And he asked me, do you think that that's a good thing? That that's how you're living right now? That everything that you're doing is something that you don't want to do? And the thing with Bryce is he doesn't really ask loaded questions. It's just genuine curiosity on his behalf. But when he asked me that, it kind of flipped the switch in my mind. It was almost like he turned the light on in my mind and forced me to assess my situation beyond the desires that I had on the other side of the situation. Because I really didn't have an answer for him. I think at the time what I told him was something along the lines of, I'm doing these things because I have goals that I want to achieve. There are goals that I want to achieve, and this is what I have to do to achieve them. And it sounds fairly logical. It sounds like a reasonable argument. But here's where I feel like that's not a compelling argument. I don't think that that's how you should live your life, because on the other side of, I'm not cutting this video, by the way, but on the other side of that process that you're in, it's just another process. So in other words, let's say, for example, I'm making these vlogs right now and I don't want to make them. There's not going to come a point anytime in the near future where I will no longer have to make them. It's just not going to happen, right? And I think that when I started YouTube initially, I was kind of ignorant in my perception of not the stability of YouTube, but maybe the long-term potential of a channel, or just how, I guess the long-term stability. Because basically, there were people that I looked up to, and when I saw those people in the positions that they were in terms of their subscriber count and the views and all of that stuff, I just assumed that they were just good. That if they wanted to, they could stop making videos. But what I found is that most of those people are not in that position. Even people that have a lot more subscribers than maybe I'll ever even have on this channel. I'm going to give you one example. Steezy Kane. All right, Steezy Kane is still to this day one of my favorite YouTubers, and actually, the content that he's been making recently is some of my favorite content that he's ever dropped. I like this content more than the content that was getting 20 million views. Even though it doesn't get the same views, I think this content is better, personally. That's just me, though. But that's besides the point. Steezy Kane made a video recently where he basically told the audience that he's in debt. Right? He has a negative bank account balance. He has, I forgot what it was exactly, but probably negative $1,000, negative $2,000, something like that. And he's also been on record saying that the most that he ever made in a month was, I believe, 13,000 or something like that. No, that could be wrong. Basically, the point that I'm making is he wasn't nearly as well off as I thought he was at the time when I started YouTube and found inspiration from his content in terms of me starting my own brand. Because I just assumed that once you got to a certain position, you could stop making videos and you're just good. What I realized is that is not the case, and it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's more that it's kind of exposing just how dispassionate I actually am for, at the very least, making the types of videos that I'm making right now. Because I think that in the back of my mind, I work very hard on YouTube with the belief that one day I won't have to anymore. But it doesn't really work that way. With YouTube, it's one of those things where you're never, unless you're at Mr. Beast level or you have 10 million subs plus, which nobody in the self-improvement space has that. I don't know that there even is a market of people that big who are into self-improvement. Nevertheless, I feel like it's exposing my dispassion. I don't know if that's even a word, but it's exposing my lack of passion for YouTube in the sense that everything that I'm doing is outcome based and not process based. I'm not making these vlogs because I love to make these vlogs. I'm making them because I don't want to make them anymore. And I feel like if I work harder by making more vlogs and dropping a course and doing these things, which by the way, none of this is mutually exclusive with providing value, right? Me working harder, me trying to make more money doesn't mean that I'm not providing value. As a matter of fact, it generally means I'm providing more value. Nonetheless, I feel like I don't really like doing this all that much because I've made my income or my livelihood contingent on it. And what do I mean by that? Right? There was a time when getting monetized on YouTube in my mind was pretty much the holy grail of achievements. There was a time when I didn't even think it was possible for me to do it, and now I've made literally over $100,000 off of this platform and off of opportunities which correspond with the platform that I've built. I'm not gonna lie, I completely lost my train of thought just now. But what was I talking about? Like I said, I'm not cutting this video, all right? You need to see how these videos actually look before I edit them and all of that. But what are we, 22 minutes in? It's a long-ass video. Okay, forget about concision and everything. I'm gonna just spill all the beans. So basically, me being in this position has exposed the fact that I don't really want to. It's not that I don't want to be successful on YouTube. It's more that I want to do it on my own terms, and that might not necessarily be possible in the way that I was thinking. Because in yesterday's vlog, for example, I was explaining how I don't want followers. I don't want people to blindly follow me wherever I choose to lead them. And I don't want people to see me as an authoritative figure because, quite frankly, I'm not, nor is really anybody else in the self-improvement space, right? There are people that you can learn from, but you should never trust anybody else to lead you down your own path. Plain and simple. You should trust people to give you the tools, the information, the education to lead yourself down your own path. But you should never trust anybody to lead you down your path for you. That being said, although there are, I personally believe, ethical advantages to that, in that I feel better about myself, I know that I'm not taking advantage of anybody. From a business standpoint, and particularly a marketing standpoint, it's honestly a very shitty way to operate a business, especially a business on a platform that is literally contingent on having followers, right? Because the whole idea of YouTube is you have people who will do pretty much whatever you say, and because of that, you can leverage that platform to make a lot of money. If I'm doing my job effectively, if I'm fulfilling my mission with this channel, you're not that type of follower. You're not a follower at all. You're a supporter. So bearing that in mind, how do I go about scaling this channel? I actually had a subscriber email me yesterday. I'm going to pull up the email right now because I'm not going to read what he said, but I'm going to read what I said back to him because I think this is a very, very, very apt way of putting it. I don't even know if I used that word correctly, but basically, he was saying that the most important thing when it comes to getting views on YouTube is your video topic, your subject matter. This is actually something that I realized a while back, is that it doesn't really matter how good my videos are. All that really matters is whether people want to hear what I have to say or not. If they don't care about the subject matter, I can make the best video on YouTube, but nobody will watch it because they don't care about it. So this is exactly what I told him. Okay, I said, I agree that video topic is the most important factor for getting views, even more than video quality. I liken it to food preferences. If someone is into hamburgers but not pizza, they'll choose a mediocre hamburger over a great pizza every single time. That being said, I think I need to take some time to figure out what meal I actually want to cook and whether or not YouTube is the best kitchen to cook that meal in, if you catch my drift. I'm saying this to say that I don't know that I can really make a living doing YouTube in the way that I want to. It seems like the only way I can actually feasibly make a long-term living off of YouTube is basically to completely sacrifice what I want to do and only give people the videos that they want to see, even though they don't necessarily align with where I'm at in my life. And the reason why this is problematic for me is because YouTube, from the start, was a place where I could express myself. I personally believe that that's why I actually fell in love with YouTube. That's why I enjoyed making videos. Anytime I've tried to niche down and appeal to people rather than just expressing myself authentically, I just built up a resentment for YouTube that I couldn't overcome by making money. Even though I might have made more money during those times, I was actually pretty miserable, right? And circling back to what Bryce asked me, right, when he asked me that question, do you feel like it's a good thing to hate every activity that you partake in all day, every day? I mean, obviously the answer is no, but that's how I've been living my life. I've been doing these things that I don't want to do and that I don't really care about. Really, I've been doing them for you. These vlogs I'm doing specifically for you. And, of course, to secure my own freedom. But again, that's illusory. That's been illusory the whole time. I've been chasing this idea of, oh, I'm going to reach a certain point and I'm good after that. I don't have to worry about money or any sort of, pretty much just any financial problems after that. I now know that that's not true. No matter what point you are in terms of your subscriber count, you still have to keep making videos. More or less, for most people, you're going to have to keep making videos. So if that's going to be the case, I need to be making videos that I actually want to make. Otherwise, I'm making videos that I don't like and expecting money to fill that gap when it, quite frankly, doesn't. It just doesn't. At least for me. Maybe for you it does. And if that's the case, power to you. Okay, I kind of envy that position, but at the same time, I don't. Because for me, I would much rather do something that I love to do. Because guess what? I told a subscriber this not too long ago when I emailed him as well. I told him that if you're doing something that you don't love doing, sure, you could get a lot of money doing that, but you'll never love doing it. If you're doing something that you love doing, you also can potentially make a lot of money doing that, but you'll always love what you're doing, right? So in other words, okay, maybe a more succinct way of putting it, like I said, I'm not cutting this video, bro. It's 1 a.m. and this vlog's coming out in less than 12 hours. But maybe a more succinct way of putting it is there are 2 doors in life. There's the door marked freedom and the door marked security. If you walk through the door marked freedom, you get both. If you walk through the door marked security, you get neither. And I feel like for me, the videos that I'm making right now, the vlogs and the NoFap course and all of these things that I've been talking about throughout this month, that's the door marked security. That's me walking through the door marked security under the premise that once I do these things, I will no longer need to do them, when now I know that that's simply not true. Whereas the door marked freedom is me focusing on my other channel, or to my point in that email, I don't even know if YouTube is the place for me to be doing that because everybody who's doing the poetry thing seems to be on Instagram and TikTok. So maybe that's where I need to be. Maybe I don't even need to be on YouTube at all right now, right? And if that's the case, then sayonara. Okay, I'm gone. But I will say this, all right? Where is this channel going? What's the future of this channel? So basically, I want to use this channel for its intended purpose, which is to document my life. I want to document my life exactly where it is. Now, if where I am in life just so happens to intersect with where a lot of other people are in life, then cool. That means that my channel will grow and get a lot of views, and cool, I'll get more money, whatever. that doesn't really matter to me at this point. All I want to do is continue to make the most authentic content that I possibly can. I don't want to sacrifice my authenticity to get more views or to appeal to a wider audience or whatever, because that's not why I started YouTube in the first place. I know that I can't get the other goal, as far as just being completely financially set for the rest of my life off of YouTube, unless I hit that 10 million subscriber mark, which I'm not saying is impossible. I'm just saying it's not my goal. I'm not going to get to that point off of YouTube. So at the very least, if I'm going to keep making these videos, I have to strive for that other goal, which is to express myself. And if that inspires you, then that's great. That's perfect. You're the exact audience that I'd like to have on this channel. But if it doesn't inspire you, then this is where we're going to have to part ways. And maybe in the future, our paths will intersect. Maybe they won't. But quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care about trying to help people or whatever, because if I try to help everyone, I end up helping no one. So the only way I can really help people is by focusing on where I am in life and documenting that in the most authentic and transparent way possible. Okay, and again, none of this makes sense from a business standpoint, and that's why I can't focus on this channel in the way that I've been focusing on it this month. I have to lock in on what I actually want to do, which is the poetry thing, and simply use this channel to document that process kind of behind the scenes, document the lifestyle behind that process. Bearing that in mind, I can't promise you anything. I can't promise you a regular schedule, weekly uploads, any of that. I will say that this isn't the last video I'm posting this month, but expect the uploads to become much more spaced out over time. You'll still receive updates when big changes happen in my life, and best believe there are some very, very major changes coming in the not too distant future. But as far as the daily vlogs go, look, all right, I know that a good portion of you, if you're watching this video still at this point, we're 32 minutes in. If you're still watching the video at this point, you're one of those people. Let's keep it real. You're one of those people. Believe me when I tell you that this took a lot of convincing on my behalf. I had to convince myself to actually follow through with this decision because I didn't want to let you down. All right, I've only really been making these vlogs for you at this point because I thought that I was helping you. But in all actuality, if I'm not on my purpose, if I'm not doing the thing that I really want to be doing in my heart, then how am I helping you? I'm setting a bad example. I'm setting a bad example at that point. If I'm doing something that I know I don't want to be doing, even if it's helping you, I'm simply inspiring you to do things that you don't want to be doing in your life either. All right, so I just finished editing that video and I realized that I was kind of just talking in circles for the last 20 minutes. So let me give it to you in a more concise way. All right, so basically I have two options with this YouTube channel. Option number one is to turn it into a business, which is pretty much what I've been doing for this past month. The whole idea was I'm going to make these vlogs, these daily vlogs, to engage the audience in NoFap. I'm going to show you how to do NoFap, or show you what a lifestyle on NoFap looks like, and then I can sell you how to achieve that lifestyle. Now, we know that that's not an option anymore. Well, it's an option, but it's not an option for me because it doesn't actually yield the outcome that I thought it would. In other words, me selling a course, even if the course is very successful, doesn't mean that I can simply leave this brand to die. There's a certain level of maintenance that must be sustained with any business, any successful business that is. Otherwise, the business will die. And because of that, that's not an option for me, because the whole idea is for me to not have to make videos for this channel or not really have to do much of anything with this brand and just focus on writing. Right? The whole idea behind me making a lot of money is not to get a nice car or a nice apartment or clothes or anything like that. I've gotten all of that already. I know that that doesn't bring me fulfillment. What does bring me fulfillment is writing. So pretty much all of this was about helping you so that I could, make enough money to be able to focus on writing. Right? So in my mind, everybody would win in that scenario. However, like I said, me selling a course, even a very successful course, does not actually put me in that sort of position, per se. And it makes me pretty miserable in the process. Because it's not that I hate making this sort of content, but making it every day, focusing on making this content all day, every day, that's just not really what I want to do with my life at this point. Option 2 is to make this channel a digital journal. Now, that's the option that I've personally chosen because process of elimination leaves me with that option. And that's also what I always wanted to do anyways. Granted, what I wanted ideally was to make the channel a digital journal that was also a business. And in a sense, I've been able to do that. But as we saw 2 vlogs ago, it's not really a good business move. It's not a smart business strategy. And I have to acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge that, hey, my brand has some deficiencies that cannot be overcome because the way that it's built is fundamentally incompatible with how a regular business should operate. Plain and simple. Because the brand is predicated on my day-to-day life. It's predicated on my personal life. And I'm not going to alter my personal life in order to make my videos more appealing for an audience. So, bearing that in mind, I have to make my channel a digital journal, and that means relinquishing the idea that this channel will make me financially free. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing because I reckon that my potential earning capacity with this YouTube channel is actually much, much, much less than that of a career in writing. Because think about who the richest YouTubers are. Alright, the richest YouTuber, Mr. Beast. That's the richest YouTuber. Mr. Beast. In order for Mr. Beast to have gotten to that point, he had to reinvest almost everything that he made into his channel over and over and over again. And he's on record saying that some months he actually doesn't make the money back all the way. He's in the red. Alright, so imagine being 100 million subscribers, or I think 200 million subscribers now, and you're still not necessarily generating a profit on all of your videos. Okay, that's not a position that I want to be in. I don't handle being in debt very well. Writing, on the other hand, you don't have to invest anything except your time. This is only a problem if you don't like to write. But guess what? I love writing. I love it. I do it for free. I write for free. I write for free every chance I get. So I can make more money because I don't have to reinvest all of my profits in order to make a lot of money with writing. And you can write a book that actually changes your life from a financial standpoint. You can make a living off of one book. I literally watched a video, I think a couple of months ago. This guy was living in Newport Beach, California. A very, 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 very filthy rich area in SoCal. And he said that he wrote one book. He wrote one book, a children's book, with illustrations and all of that. And that book right there paid his bills for a decade. Find me a YouTuber who has posted a video that paid their bills for a decade. Alright, so whether I'm doing writing for money or for passion, it doesn't matter. It's better in both instances. The only reason why I keep coming back to YouTube is because of fear. Okay, it's scary. It is scary to take a leap of faith, especially when what you're doing at one point was the thing that you were dreaming about. But that's what needs to be done. Okay, that is what needs to be done. Listen, all of these tasks that I've shown you throughout the course of, as a matter of fact, I need to check these off for today, but all of these tasks that I've shown you throughout this month, these things help. Okay, they do help. But guess what? Nothing can replace you finding and following your purpose. Your soul's mission, the thing that you were put on this earth to do. When you find and follow that, that transcends everything else. Alright? And that's what really matters in this life. That's what truly matters. More than any workout or NoFap, whatever. None of that stuff matters in comparison to your purpose. That's what truly matters in this life. Granted, I will say this. I forgot to address this in the video as well, but I am going to keep doing NoFap, or at least that's my intention. That's my intention right now. I'm very close to 30 days. I don't know exactly when 30 days will be for me, but this is the longest streak I've been on in over a year now, which is crazy. But me being on a NoFap streak does not make me feel better than that creative flow that I found this summer when I was focused on that Jordan Green poetry channel. Now, that being said, if you want to follow that journey, then you can go and subscribe to that channel. Don't subscribe to that channel just to support me though. Only subscribe to that channel if you actually like my poetry. That's not Jordan Green. It's Jordan Green poetry. There's a difference. This is Jordan Green. That's Jordan Green poetry. So if you want to follow that journey, by all means, be my guest. But in the meantime, before I end this video, I think I owe you guys a few shout-outs, don't I? The first shout-out goes to my boy, The Realest Tiller. All right, shout out to him. You love to see it. That was on the skincare routine video. The next shout-out goes to my boy, Kale the Messenger. All right, shout out to you. You got first comment on the, which one was it? The I Messed Up video. And then the last first comment goes to the legendary, one and only, Eel Music. Eel Music, shout out to you. All right, this man right here has been showing so much love throughout this whole journey. I really, really appreciate you. And it's people like you who made it very, very difficult for me to make this decision. But I know that since you've been following this journey and you really support me, right? And I'm not just speaking to Eel Music, I'm speaking to everybody who has supported me through this journey. You understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if you don't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, you will one day. Best believe.